to Beyond the Ring, a podcast that covers all things in the stock show industry from the informative to the insane, starring Ryan Rash.
If someone is going to judge you, become the judge.
And Dale Hummel.
The purpose of our lives is to be happy.
Now on with the show.
Welcome to Beyond the Ring. This is Dale Hummel alongside co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello, hello, hello.
Ryan, I am the most proud that our buddy Chris that we had on Beyond the Circus was on Fox News last week. And you know what he told them?
That camel toe was crazy.
He basically told the truth. And then that's unusual that we hear those things in media. Not saying that Fox has drifted a little on this. Now, hopefully they're coming back, but did a very nice job of talking about the border and actually what was going on there. But as of today, Ryan, you're in Florida, correct?
Yes, I am.
And can you get an Uber?
I can get lots of Ubers in Florida.
Still enough fuel to get Ubers.
As of last night.
Well, hopefully it stays that way, but it does not look good.
It's looking real bad across the country.
No, it is. Have you, you haven't noticed anything whatsoever at the hotel, obviously.
No, nothing has changed here at all. But if you look at Facebook and everything else, the world has gone to hell.
I think it has, but I think there's some people that are probably having issues because they cannot get fuel, and each day it's going to probably get a little bit worse, I would assume. I just heard a report that they claim that they're going to be back online by the end of the week.
I thought they were already back online.
They're saying Friday, Saturday, Sundays. And this was just on maybe an hour ago.
Oh, this is not good.
No, it's not. And we're talking, and everybody's probably already aware of it. And when this drops, it's going to be a little more advanced. But we're talking about Colonial Pipeline, and 45% of the fuel on the East Coast is supplied by this pipeline. They had some version of Microsoft that wasn't very well protected, and ransomware came in and kind of bit them right in the ass. And this is a problem. Do you know who did this, Ryan?
No, the Russians is what they're saying.
Yes, I'm not saying it was Putin himself or the Russian government itself, but how much goes on in Russia that they aren't aware of or that they don't allow?
I have no idea because I've never been there.
I'm very, very confident. I have researched it, by the way. I did spend some time late last night researching that, and there is no question Putin is completely aware of what's going on. And if he did not approve of it, those people would not exist. It's really that simple. I consider this an act of war, nothing short. An act of war. We talk about biowarfare, cyber warfare. I don't know that nuclear weapons or traditional weapons are even going to be an issue anymore.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I'm not very happy about it all.
I don't know what to tell you here.
I think that we need to, at this point, what do you think is going to be done about this? What do you think our fearless leader is going to do in this situation?
Joe?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. And if he does nothing, what are the Russians going to do again, or the Chinese, or any hacker out there? What are they going to continue to do?
Well, he's going to leave it unchecked, so more people are going to think that they can do this. Obviously,
yes, and they're going to, and it concerns me. There was a threat out there that they may be attacking the power grid while the fuel issue is going on. If they attack the power grid, I think they were targeting one on the East Coast. I don't know if that includes Trump Tower there in Florida or not, but it is not a good situation, and we're very, very vulnerable, it looks like. And if I'm going to spend any government money on infrastructure and other things and all those pet ass projects, this is where I want to put some government money ASAP.
I just have one thing to say about all this is, according to the results of the election, the people decided that the man that did not need fuel or petroleum should be president. So I don't know why everybody's so upset when there's not going to be any.
Exactly. This is just how it is, isn't it?
This is what y'all voted for.
No, it is. And when we are no longer self-sufficient, when we cancel the Keystone Pipeline, think about that Keystone Pipeline. They're talking about 10,000 trucks trying to replace the pipeline that ran to the East Coast, the Colonial Pipeline. How do you think that is for our environment versus a pipeline?
I would think that it's probably not going to work out well for those people.
By canceling that Keystone Pipeline, we've made ourselves more dependent on foreign oil again, overseas oil. We've taken a step backwards environmentally. There is no logical justification for this, and I hope these things are brought to light. If we could get anything good out of this, and good Lord, it's got to change. We have to have a change in policy somewhere. while we're on that, there is something else that needs to change, Ryan, that I feel very, very strongly about. Dr. Fauci.
They're going to boot him out. So
please, when?
No, the Republicans are putting up a bill this week about it.
But I don't believe they have the power to get rid of him. Did you get to listen to that Rand Paul Fauci confrontation?
No, I did not.
Oh, you would have enjoyed it the most. He calls him out. I mean, he comes out here. I'll give you a little bit of it from what I can remember. I'm paraphrasing on this. Rand Paul says, "Do you still support the NIH funding of the Wuhan lab?" And Fauci comes back, "No, you're completely incorrect. That is not accurate." And they go back and forth about this for several minutes. And what it's all targeted around, and I'm excited. You got me on a topic that I get kind of wound up about. It's all about this gain of function research. Have you heard about that one yet? You've been on the beach or on the hotel pool, haven't you?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so what we're talking about and what Rand Paul was questioning Fauci at the hearing is he is in charge, or he has a group that he works with, this NIH group that has actually funneled money to the Wuhan lab. Not funneled it, they've given money to the Wuhan lab, and there's evidence out there of such. We have a scientist working in the lab over there in Wuhan that came out and published a paper and acknowledged that NIH group was responsible for helping fund this project. This project was all about what we call gain of function. Gain of function research in the viral sense is basically creating a virus that is a super steroid, superhero type virus that is more resilient, more contagious, more virulent in terms of mortality rate. It's a super virus that has been manipulated in the laboratory to be deadly. And there's only one reason to create something like that, Ryan. I mean, that's what they're doing. I can't say for sure that it came out of that lab. And maybe it was that 1 in a billion chance that it came from a damn bat, but I don't think so. So when they're doing research to create a super virus, they're doing it for biowarfare. There is one comforting thing that I heard Rand Paul state on this. He says we have 11 labs in the United States doing the same thing, and we currently have a SARS virus in one of our labs. I can't believe he let this out. That if we were to release it, has a 15% mortality rate. And again, there's only one reason we're creating these super viruses, or the gain to function research is going on, and that is to counteract the biowarfare. So at this point, if somebody screws with us bad enough, we have that deterrent, and I'm sure they're aware of it, that we can release something probably more deadly than what they've come up with. It's not a good end game. There's no good way out of this, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but this is a terrible idea.
It's not good. But what's shocking to me, there's a chance that your and my tax dollars went to fund the Wuhan lab to better gain their knowledge of gain to function research to create biowarfare. This lady was scared when this virus came out, and she went back and went through all of her records to try to determine, okay, is there a chance this leaked out of the lab? She was unsure because they were working on something exactly like this. And Rand Paul has brought this to light. Dr. Fauci's trying to deny every bit of it. And the fact that he may have funneled money, or not funneled, he may have allowed money to go to that Wuhan lab through the NIH funding. He basically is in charge of investigating how COVID came to be, and he may be part of the problem itself. The wagons are circling, and there's a reason he was so defensive when Rand Paul. I mean, it was as defensive as I've ever seen. My instinct, I have no proof of this, but my instinct tells me that his defense mechanism kicked in. I think this goes really, really deep. I am convinced that our intelligence agency knows perfectly well how this started. But for one reason or another, whether it's political, whether it's they can't reveal a source or get that source in trouble, we know how this all came about. And at some point, it's going to be brought to the forefront.
Well, there you go.
I'm not happy. Do you know what I think of Dr. Fauci?
Yes, Dale, you have told us
What are those people in St. Louis's name?
The McCluskeys.
I'd like to turn McCluskey's loose on him.
Right.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, again, I don't know, but there's legislation saying that the Republicans are making a move to get Dr. Fauci out, which the Republicans been getting lots of people out because they ousted Liz Cheney this morning.
And I am all on board with that, but I want them to focus on Fauci even more. I really, really do. Did you hear about his? This was another one. I'm going to keep going back to him because everything seems to revolve around him. The CDC told us earlier that 10% of the COVID transmission was happening outdoors. Now the science is coming out, Ryan. It's 0.1% of transmissions actually happening. You can go back down to the pool and tell those children that you had in your snap to take their mask off in the pool. It's okay.
That was technically waterboarding.
Well, yeah, I agree. I don't know. I think we should call DCFS or something on those parents. You in on that?
Like, I know people think I make this shit up. I have video proof of these children in the damn pool at a Trump resort with their mask on, diving in.
Why would these parents be at a Trump resort with that mentality? I'm confused.
Well, no one here speaks English. These are all foreigners. All foreigners.
And I bet they snuck in the back gate just to get in the pool. Those sons of bitches.
I mean, none of the staff speaks English. None of the guests speak English. They're all foreigners. But, like, these children are swimming underwater with these masks on. Like, that is waterboarding. And the parents get in the pool, too, wearing their masks. They didn't go underwater, but I was like, y'all are all idiots.
It's shocking how many foreign travelers are coming to our country right now. I assume because they can.
The American people that we see, they're not wearing masks.
But the foreign population is.
There's only one group that is wearing them in the pool, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot more mask outside than what I thought there would be.
It's amazing to me. And as I travel, I don't even know where I flew to last, but I had a group of Asians on the transport shuttle and within the airport that clearly were on vacation here in the U.S. And I don't know where they're from, and I'm not trying to be racist or anything like that, but it puzzles me just a little bit where we have a hard time getting in and out of the country that it appears as though we're wide open for a lot of countries to come in, and I'm okay with it. But it seems to be going against what's in my head on what regulations are out there.
I don't understand why we can't go anywhere, but everybody can come here.
Yeah. You know what's interesting, and I saw this, this is happening. We've all known this, and hopefully all of the listeners, but they're really hammering the point that using Texas as an example, since Texas opened completely back up, and remember they said, oh, this is going to be terrible with that third wave or fifth, whatever damn wave it was. But hospitality cases continue to go down in Texas. You're pretty much wide open and everything's getting better. That should send a signal, maybe, shouldn't it?
You would think it was, but I don't think the rest of the people are listening or wanting to.
I really believe Washington, D.C. is in this bubble, and it's not good. They're not paying attention to what's going on. They're like maybe where we were in the very, very beginning, where we didn't know and very fearful of it, but it's pretty clear now where we're at, and they're still making those choices. I watched John Kerry going through his hearing today, distance from everybody that's already been vaccinated and been tested, and guess what he had on while he was speaking?
A mask.
He did, and I don't like him.
Ew.
I do not. So,
same.
Did you see the UMass girls that were suspended?
No.
3 girls. They're off campus, and they take a selfie, those 3 together without their mask on, and this college suspends them and basically asks them to get off campus. This is the same college that I think had some success earlier with a hockey team, and they're all celebrating without masks on, no problem. But now on social media, these 3 girls post a picture that they just lean in for a selfie, not even on college campus. I don't know. Heck, they could be living together for all I know, but booted, suspended from campus. Please leave, lose your tuition. This is out of control.
How can they do that?
They did it. I don't know. It shocks me. Absolutely. That's, I think, how crazy we still are in certain pockets.
I don't even know how you can. I would sue them the most.
I would assume. I saw their parents were interviewed, and they were the least happy about the whole situation. So, did you notice your Governor Newsom really is pulling a unique stunt right there to try to survive the recall?
No, what is he doing?
He is giving them back a tax rebate that should be in the hands of voters weeks before the recall election.
Oh, isn't that convenient?
A tax rebate. That somehow California taxes enough that he's able to now kick them a check back, which is great. I think that's good. Well, maybe we should rethink it and reduce the taxes to begin with. Might be a good idea to bring those down a little bit. And who knows? I'm sure there's.
So he's literally bribing people to stay as governor.
Yes, but wasn't California and Illinois just about in the state of bankruptcy? How does he have the money to give a rebate? I'm confused. I mean, he has the money because he's going to buy back the vote. And you know what? I think it'll work.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Your poor Caitlyn, Bruce, Jenner. This is going to be a very uphill battle now. I thought she was a clear and decisive winner coming into this, or my prediction. Not with Governor Newsom. He had this in his little bag to pull out.
Well, isn't that fancy?
It is. It's interesting, if nothing else. What about the little horse that could?
Oh, don't even get me started on the Kentucky Derby.
Did you give a speech in Ohio about that?
I did, and it was a badass speech, by the way. And this was a great show in terms of quality, and there was like 800 pigs and whatever, and it was freezing and the wind was blowing massively. I mean, weather conditions were not.
You were
good.
in an open-sided building. I really thought you were enclosed. I wasn't aware.
Three sides open, but
and normally this time of year it'd be fine. It just wasn't this week.
Was not this week. But anyway, this speech about freaking horse. It was great. It was wonderful. These people actually finally clapped because it was so good. I get in the car, I call your dumbass, and you tell me the horse got disqualified.
Do you know how much pleasure I took in telling you that?
Oh, God.
It was the funniest moment. But I'm sure it was a good speech, and maybe the horse won't be. They split the sample. The chances of the other half the sample testing negative is about 0, but there's still a chance. And I wanted to give this horse the benefit of doubt and that trainer, but
y'all, there's a vet claiming that he recommended some ointment that has this stuff in it because the horse got a rash or something in the last whatever. And there's several people saying that the amount of that drug that came back could not affect the outcome of the race.
Yes.
And he's getting to run in the Preakness.
Yeah, allowed to. And I don't know what that level is, but I think if we knew the level, and obviously they did a quantitative test on that, if we knew what that level was, and that level was what we call background or environmental contamination, then it's all crap. If that level's high enough that it would impact the performance, then the trainer's hung out to dry. It does not surprise me that those trainers are going to push it to the limits, as competitive as it is, and it just is what it is. Those things are going to happen. I wish they wouldn't, but I think that level, we could give that level to Matt Clays, and he could say yes or no. This is real or is not. But I have not, and I've looked for it. I did not see the exact level that it came back at.
Yeah, I didn't do all that research, but I did see that multiple people have said that from the test results, this would not be considered a performance-enhancing drug. So
got it. Yeah. So, and I've seen others that say that this trainer's had 6 positive tests in the last few months. So I don't know. I have no idea if it was or wasn't. I think it's all speculation, but the only thing that was good about it was it made for a lot of entertainment after you gave that speech about him. What about people being able to hire workers? What about our jobs report, Ryan?
Oh, it was great. Did you not hear about it? So Biden,
I heard a little. Yeah.
America is moving again. We are back working. We are great. I am the best president in the history of the world. There was supposed to be like all the experts. I love this. All the experts. And see, this is another thing. When he was giving his whatever joint address to Congress, he kept talking about these job numbers. I was like, what job numbers, sir? Because I was fact checking him and I could not find any of this bullshit that he was talking about. So then the jobs report comes back and they're all convinced it's going to be over 1 million. Try 220 something thousand, and unemployment rose, not declined, rose to 6.1%. So Biden and his America that is moving is all a bunch of horse shit.
It is horse shit. And if they want to argue, and he's trying to, if they want to argue that this $300 to $400 additional money on top of unemployment is not affecting people's desire to go back to work, he's lost his mind. It's all crap. No question. Right now, if you're a husband and wife, you could be doing as well staying at home as if your salary is the equivalent of just under $80,000. I don't blame these people, Ryan, for staying at home. when they're getting paid that much. They can stay with their kids. They can hang out. They can do whatever they want. And in that scenario, I'm not even upset that they're not going to work. Why go to work if you're going to be paid comparable to stay at home? And he's crazy if he doesn't think this is impacting small businesses trying to hire people. It's sad. It's the ignorance at the level that I can't even imagine. Not only that, but we've got ignorance in the hands of the most powerful person on the planet. I surrender. Those of you out there listening to us that voted him into office, it's not a good thing.
Well, when you elect a clown, expect a circus.
It's bad. Bad to the point of terrible.
Yeah.
The only other thing, and I apologize for going long on current events, and I don't apologize. There's a lot of crap going on in the world, Ryan.
Oh.
Do we need to talk a little bit about Israel and what my solution is to that?
Well, like, I know we think that we've gone long. We haven't even touched on half the shit that's happened in the past week.
No,
like,
it's out of control.
Biden is under siege, people, and he has no idea what to do. But yeah, Israel is just one part of it.
No, and when we talk about the rockets, I don't remember how many. It's in the hundreds of rockets being fired into the populace of Israel. And again, did they instigate it and push the limits on the battle that's been there forever in the Gaza Strip? That they have. But there's no question. There's one thing. Do you want to know where all the funding and all those rockets are coming from, Ryan?
Where?
Iran. Do you want to tell me what a loose cannon Iran is? It's beyond belief. And I think if Israel can't let this slide, if I'm Israel, I take out Iran. I'm done with it. How many hundreds of years has this gone on? And Iran at this point is funding all of it. I know this is far from ideal, but as bad as it gets and as crazy of a wild card as Iran is, we would be better off if they did not exist.
I'm not going to say you're wrong.
Sleepy Joe's going to do nothing. Stop with these things. He's going to give more cash to Iran, and you know what Iran's going to do with it? Give it to the Palestinians, give it to Hamas. They're going to fire more rockets into Israel. It's a battle that we probably can't fix. So I don't know how to solve that problem, but the problem with Iran, there is no solution other than to put sanctions on them to the point that they're strangled to zero. Done. We had that going on when Trump was in office, by the way.
Yeah, well.
How's Trump Towers?
This is a very nice hotel. I don't think Trump owns it anymore, but it's a nice place.
All good. Are you ready for the main topic?
Sure.
And this one's pretty wide open, Ryan. We can go any direction, and those are kind of fun usually.
Mm-hmm.
But we're looking at a topic title, The Outside Looking In. What direction should we go with it?
I don't know. I mean, there's lots of ways to look at that, but I guess like the main thing that I take from it is when you're standing on the outside of the ring watching the judge and ridiculing them.
And guess what? And I've done it, Ryan. I'm going to plead guilty. I try not to, but I have. Especially when I'm emotionally involved and I have children showing, it's really easy to stand on the outside of the ring and be critical.
Oh, I there's no doubt. And I mean, I don't actively have any animals showing right now, but I will be the first one to tell you, and I have said this to other people, that like it is difficult for me to go to shows anymore and to watch because I do that and I get angry because people lie.
So you're not even as angry about how they're placed, but maybe how they're not describing them as accurately as you would like.
People lie a lot.
Do you think it's intentional?
I don't know. I don't care if it's intentional or not. I just don't like the fact that they lie.
So I think when we can take this down this path and there's a lot of things from whether or not we think they're lying about the reasons the judge. And again, I'm going to try to present both sides of it. But if you take a poll of 10 people sitting in those stands watching a show, you're going to get so many different opinions. Maybe that person's going too slow. We had a judge go through Fort Worth a few years ago, Ryan, that went too fast and really, really offended a lot of the ag teachers and families. So you can go too fast. You can go too slow. You can talk too long. You can maybe not talk enough. You're never going to fit every single person in that crowd.
On the whole slow fast thing, I guess my take on it is people like want to say, I guess from my perspective and me, people want to say that I go too fast. Well, here's the thing. I talk to every kid that comes in the ring. I describe every animal on the microphone, or if it's a hog show, I go up to those, or even other big shows where you have to dismiss them. I go up to those kids and tell them what I liked and didn't like about their animal, and they're still going to say I'm too fast. Well, they can get over it.
I think, and maybe we need to open the curtain up and just explain to a lot of the exhibitors and some of our listeners that when you're out there as a judge and making those decisions, and Ryan's very good about it, better than I am by a considerable amount, making sure he does not miss one of those exhibitors and he has communication with each and every one of them. And I think that's how it needs to be done. And when you do that and you're still able to line them up fairly quickly, it doesn't matter, Ryan. You can stand out there. Let's say you've got 10 steers in the ring. You can stand out there and in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes, have your mind made up, pull them in. That is not going to change if you stood there for an hour. So why not pull them in once you've made that decision?
Yeah, that's what I don't get is like people like, oh, well, they took their time. Yeah, okay, they took their time. They kicked the sawdust or the dirt and whatever and stood around there and made you feel better, but you're still ended up next to last. So because it took longer, you feel better about yourself. Well, I'm sorry about that.
That's not very nice.
I'm just being honest.
No, it is. And you can stand out there and take longer, but it is not going to change the end result. Just like the person that judged the Fort Worth show, and I'm not even going to go into species or any names, I am confident that person lined them up how he wanted them lined up, and he could have taken 4 times as long and it wouldn't have changed. But if he probably would have maybe slowed up enough to give a little more attention to the exhibitor, I don't think the ag teachers and the exhibitors would have been maybe as upset about it. I had no problem with how the animals were lined up whatsoever, and he did move right through them.
I mean, I get it if somebody is going fast and not interacting with the kids or being rude or stuff like that, and you want to be mad about somebody moving too fast. I get that. But then I also have issues with the people that say, oh, well, he wasn't slow. He was just thorough. And he or she sat out there and just looked at the stuff, never talked to a kid once, anything, but they just took a long time, but then they're thorough.
If anything, I think when you're standing out there, and I've been out there, and I get distracted easier than anybody. It could be who knows what it is. But the longer you stand out there and appear to be considering your decision, guess what that lends to?
That you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it's just a signal of lack of confidence and that you're struggling. And sometimes pairs are hard, but it's not hard for me to see the differences in those animals. If I stop to think about something, it's just where I'm going to place that priority. And in all reality, it just is what it is, and pull them in and explain those differences. If you have animals that are so identical, which they don't usually exist, that there's just very, very minor differences that you need to look at, I kind of understand it. But generally speaking, animals come in different shapes and sizes, and it just is what it is. We simply have to make that choice on a priority.
Well, and the whole thing is, it's an opinion. There is no formula. There's not some math equation that you can do in your head or on a calculator. It's an opinion.
It's a very, very subjective opinion.
And so, if you have a problem deciding about your opinion, then you probably don't need to be in there anyway.
And Ryan, I think that the way your mind works and the approach you take to judging these shows is exactly that. You go into it wanting to give your opinion and describe what's in front of you, and you don't even think twice about it. There's no hesitation. And because of that, you do come across very confident. It's very easy for you to do that. But unfortunately, I think that that's very natural for you. But I think there's a lot of judges out there, and especially when they're just getting started, are more concerned about what we would call getting it right rather than just sorting them how they prefer.
There is no right.
But what I'm trying to get across is, in the mind of a lot of people judging, they're wanting to do what's right or what's popular or maybe what's done at the previous show. And when you start playing mental games like that, guess what happens? It's difficult, and you're going to get them wrong more times than not. You're not going to sort them how you want them sorted. And I can't get that across enough that Ryan, and I'm confident. I know you don't understand maybe the impact or the magnitude of what I'm talking about, but because you show up at a show, just like this weekend, a fairly large hog show, there is no question you're going to sort those in your personal preference, and it's fairly easy for you because I'm assuming you didn't know a single kid there. You didn't know a person behind those holding pins. There was no political bias that could even come into play because you don't even know them. Not that you would anyway. I can hang my hat on that one pretty hard. I get beat under you more than I win. Yeah, it's just great. But it's easy for you. And I think if judges would take that approach and simply go in there and sort them as they prefer them, it works much better. Does that mean that they're always going to be the same from weekend to weekend? And I think this other thing from the outside looking in, going back to our title, in the North, we're seeing more of this. We've seen it in the South more than we have up here. But our 2 ring shows on the same day. And obviously you've got Judge A and Judge B from ring A to ring B, and it's not always going to be the same. But unfortunately, sometimes we can see over the fence, and whether you're trying to or not, you're gonna catch on to maybe what that other judge is doing. But it's interesting to me that the public, the exhibitors, are now realizing if those 2 judges are truly sorting them independent, not worried about what happened the weekend before or what happened in the ring right next to them, that this is exactly what Ryan's talking about. It is a personal opinion. And it used to be in my mind, and I think a lot of exhibitors' minds long, long ago, that, wow, this judge came in, sorted this show. This is the grand champion. That's the best one there, period. No question. Well, guess what? We'll have the best one that may be very different from ring A to ring B. And they both deserve to win because that is that person's personal opinion. And if you don't agree with where they're at, let's hope they're at least very consistent and explain themselves well, then it's pretty hard to be critical. And if you want to be critical on some judge that's not competent to be doing that, I don't even get on the judge. I place the blame somewhere else. And that's those that committee or that person that's hiring those judges needs to be maybe a little more cautious on who they bring in.
Here's the whole thing, and this is for people that judge, people that hire judges, or the people standing on the outside of the rail that are participating through their kids or animals they sold, all this thing. And I get that people, I don't know, maybe I'm just weird because I have this so cemented in my head, but it is an opinion, and Dale has an opinion, and I have an opinion, and everybody at that show has an opinion. And if we all had the same opinion, there would only be one show a year, and there wouldn't be a whole lot of fun in that. And so whoever is standing out in the ring that day that has the microphone, their opinion is going to be official. That does not make their opinion right, nor does it make it wrong. And that is how it is. And that's why very few times do I get upset over placings, because it is truly a subjective opinion. Now, there are times where I'm like, this person is just stupid and does not need to be doing
real
this.
Nice, Ryan. Real nice.
Well, there are times like that. Not many, but there are times, and I'm like, this person is just stupid and does not need to be out there. But that is very, very few times. And so I rarely get upset over placings because that's just an opinion. What I get upset about is the fact is that either they are not accurate or they lie when they talk to the people about what they see in those animals or why they're placed the way they are. And again, for me, I've never claimed that my opinion's right. I know there's a bunch of hog people out there that don't like me judging hog shows because I use the type and kind that I like to, and that is not what they sell or anything like that. But I've never claimed that my opinion should be valued more than theirs. This is just what it is today. But as long as I stand out there and I describe those things accurately, you really can't argue. I'll say, yeah, this one in third's heavier muscled. And if that's what you want, use it to win the class. It's not what I want.
And that makes perfect sense. And Ryan, I probably win the award, the few hog shows that I judge, that I'm further than you away from that, and maybe putting even more emphasis on skeletal build. But it'll be interesting and Ryan and I have a couple shows, I think, scheduled where we're going to judge back to back, and we aren't going to be the same. But I would say our philosophy, particularly in the swine ring, is probably closer than not. And it still is not going to end up the same. And that's where that personal opinion comes in. What is puzzling to me, Ryan, and maybe you can explain it better than I can, when we go to a show, especially when there's a lot of variation, where there's maybe only a few of those really good or those elite animals there, that there's something that I'm going to describe very vaguely when I talk about just quality show animals. When you've got a quality one out there, it hits me fairly easy, and it may not be perfect. It may not be the exact type that I want or that I'm leaning towards, but it just has so much more quality than the rest of them out there. You'll end up using those, even though they're not your ideals. And it surprises me sometimes when we bounce from one judge to another or from the outside looking in, that occasionally those animals that there's only one or two in that entire show that have quality end up getting the gate or get missed. Does that make any sense?
that fathoms me.
And I'm being very vague, and I apologize for that.
But like, I don't care if you're at a show where there's 100, 2,000, whatever. There's always going to be a couple of them or a handful of them, or the larger the show, the more of them, that those need to either stay in the ring or be up there high and all those other things. And some, when they're not, and you're looking from the outside and you're going, why is that one not there? More times than not, there's a reason that you don't know. Is
because those animals are generally sticking out. I'm not saying they need to use them to win that class or to win the entire show necessarily, depending on how many other quality animals are there. But it's really hard for them to not, even if they're not their exact type, it's hard for them not to stay in that top 5 or that top group. Does that make sense?
Right. And I mean, I have to use animals to win classes, to win breeds at shows a lot. That, no, that's not my ideal kind, but in those given circumstances, amongst those peers and that they're showing against, that one has the most positive characteristics, qualities, and attributes about it. And so even if it's not the coolest fronted one I've ever seen, and everything else about it has a lot going for it, and there's nothing else in that class or that breed that possesses those multiple positive attributes, then I'll say, I've seen sexier fronted ones than this today. But right here, this one needs to win because of XYZ. And you just do that. You can't get so hung up on whether it is I like stout, heavy muscled ones, or I like gorgeous, good looking ones. You can't get so hung up on one single trait that you forgo everything else to make sure that stays.
Agreed. And I probably am guilty to a certain degree that I don't think that I am, because I think I have that balance. But from the outside looking in, when I'm sorting a hog show, I'm going to put more emphasis on soundness than what most judges are. I'm not trying to beat the ones with quality, but if I have one that comes out that's massive and opened up and big legged, but just cannot move at all, and I'm going to justify this a little bit, I'm not going to grab a hold of them whatsoever. And at the same time, I do hear a lot of people talk about this, and I agree with it. Sometimes we'll beat animals that are 9 out of the 10 traits we want are just really good, but that one trait's not very good. It's hard. I'm guilty of it, I guess. If that animal can't move, I'm probably going to be more critical maybe than somebody else on it.
Well, I'm not saying that you can't be critical or you can't take that into consideration, but if you judge enough of these, I don't care if it's me or anybody, you're going to come to a point where whatever your greatest factor is, whether it's soundness or muscularity or look, that there's going to be a class where the one that needs to win maybe doesn't have that, but that still means that even though that animal doesn't possess your number one criteria, doesn't mean that one's still not the best one in the class. And if you can't see that and you can't understand that, then I think that gets into one of those situations that very few times that I say, I was like, okay, this person is stupid and does not need to be judging.
I think that's very well put, and the explanation that we just have to accept it. And there's no question. And the smaller shows, you're going to do more and more of that than where you have more opportunities and more quality animals that come to maybe some of the bigger or some of the more competitive shows. So no, I think that's really good. It's interesting. And I do believe, and we kind of hit on it a little bit, but when we have those dual rings, Ryan, I think that in itself demonstrates how subjective this is and how much it's a personal opinion. And I think exemplifies the fact that you go out there and give your personal opinion on exactly how you want them lined up. And in your mind, that's just how it is. And in terms of how you want them, but very willing to acknowledge that somebody's going to come in and it may be different. It probably will be different, but this is where I'm at today. And you talk them accordingly.
Oh yeah. I mean, I do not expect anyone to ever think that I am right. Because again, it's just an opinion. What I hope to do is I hope that I describe those animals accurately enough that the people that are outside of the ring looking in at me can understand what I see in those animals and why I aligned them the way they did. even if they want to think I'm nuts, that's fine. But this is what is here. This is why this one's here. This is why this one's there. And that is why like accuracy is very, very important to me, because that's all you can do. You can't make somebody agree with you on how they need to be lined up. And I think the people that try to do that, it's just an exercise in vanity. If you are that desperate that you think that you need to prove to everybody at that show that you're right and they're wrong, you're probably not in this for the right reasons. I want people, whether they think I'm right or wrong or indifferent, just to listen to what I say about those animals, and they can see, you know what he said, that one's too far forward in terms of his shoulder and knee, but he's here, and here, he's real good. So that's where he ends up. Or maybe this one isn't as stout or as big backed as that one there, but that one moves better. That one's taller fronted, taller shouldered. So yeah, I get those things. I am way more concerned that the people can hear the words coming out of my mouth, and when I say those things, they can identify exactly what I'm talking about and see it in that animal. And if I do that, then I've won.
I think that's success. That's where it needs to be.
Right. Then you've won. You've done the best you can do. I mean, that's it. I would never step into a ring, and never have, going, I am going to make sure everybody here knows I am right and they are wrong if they disagree with me. That is just
now
beyond me.
I have heard you make a statement when you find one that you like, that if the crowd maybe doesn't agree with it, we're going to have trouble all day long.
No, I said, if you don't think this one should win, you might as well pack up and go home, because we're not going to see them the same. And
that's not saying you're right. It's just saying we're different.
That's not saying I'm right. I'm just saying this is my kind right here. And this is it. It has everything that I want, everything in it. And if you don't like this one, then there's no sense in you staying here, because you're going to be very, very unhappy the rest of the day if you don't think this is the easy thing and the obvious winner in this class. That's not saying I'm right. I'm just telling you, unless you want to sit here and be frustrated all day, you might as well peace out.
Agreed. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to approach another little area here. And Ryan, maybe you won't agree with this. Maybe it doesn't apply to you, but I think it does to a lot of people, that when you're on the outside of the ring, whether it's in the bleachers or standing ringside, it's sometimes easier to comprehend the big picture. And maybe it's just because you're from a distance and you're looking at the big picture, you're looking at the outlines, you're looking at the movement from a distance, rather than maybe seeing all the detail that you do when you're the judge in that ring, getting up close and evaluating those, maybe the shape and the smaller things a little bit more. But I almost think sometimes it's easier because we have to keep it more simple from a distance than it is in the ring. Does that make any sense?
No, I think it makes a lot of sense. And not only that, but when you are on the outside, this is going to come across a little bit that
I know exactly what you're going to say.
That I'm negative on judges, and I'm not negative on judges, because I think it takes a great deal of self-confidence to stand out there under the bright lights and make those decisions and all that. And if you don't have a healthy dose of confidence, you probably don't need to do it. But there is a certain amount of pressure put on you, whether it's by the people that are watching you or by yourself, once you step in there, and you don't realize it. It's not like you open the gate and, oh, here's the pressure, but it is there, and it's subconscious, it's conscious, it's all of it. And so I think when you're standing on the outside, since you don't have that pressure, and you know that you're not going to be the one that gets lit up on social media or yelled at by some angry grandpa at the end of the show, whatever. Yeah, it's a lot simpler. I also think just what you said, that you can see more from afar. I think that is right, even when I have never understood. And yeah, very few times will I go in and get close on one. And if I do, it's just to see exactly, like I do it a lot in cattle on foreribs, because you can tell when one is not seamless in that transition from that forerib into that body. But sometimes I'll get up close on there to see, okay, how bad is that right there? Like, is this something that with time can feed out of this, or is this going to be a problem forever? So yeah, I think you have to get up close to see that, or on front feet sometimes. I know that one twists out. How bad does that twist out? So yeah, there are very few times for me, at least, that I do need to go get up on them. I think you see more from a distance. I've never understood why people think you have to be right up on an animal to analyze it. And this is something that goes in even into the judging team process when they let them go in for close inspection. All I did when I went in for close inspection was handles those things. Because again, I can see a lot more from a ways off than I can right up on that animal.
I think that's perfectly well described, Ryan. And I'm going to take it to this judging team thing just a minute. And I coached for many, many years. And a lot of those students that I coached that would get out into the real world and start judging shows would touch base with me. What do I need to do? And one of the things that I try to strongly encourage them is, depending on what ring you're working in, let's try to get back off them as best you can, or make sure that they're working through the ring so you have that opportunity, because sometimes they'll come in and the ring help or whatever at the show, they've got them right on top of you, and it's difficult to get off of those. And no, I think you've explained that extremely, extremely well. And I want to compliment you, Ryan, and I don't always do this, but from the standpoint that I believe you've conquered that pressure very, very well, considering how many shows you do, and you're a little bit of a target. So you're going to put more pressure on yourself maybe than anything else. But I think you've conquered that so well that you're able to go out there and think very clearly that this is how I like them, and it is what it is. And I'm not overly concerned if somebody didn't sort those the same way.
No,
Not saying that you want to be different, but you're not concerned with it.
I don't want to. I mean, if like when there are shows, I'm judging a ring beside another human being, or I judge one day and they judge that, I don't ever go in with it on my mind that, oh, I want to be way different than this person. Because again, I'm not there to prove that I'm right and they're wrong. I think that's probably what is wrong with more judges than anything else in this world, is that there is a section of the judging population that truly thinks that they are out there to prove that their opinion is superior to all others. And that's not how it needs to work. But I am also never going to alter my alignment or what I see because somebody else isn't going to see it that way, or it's not going that way in the other ring, or the guy judging on Sunday, I know he's going to like this kind a lot more, so I'm going to, do it different than what I would so we would be closer. No, I ain't going to do that shit either. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do me, because nobody does me better than I do, and I'm going to describe them and be accurate, and I'm going to leave there and be perfectly happy.
No, I think that's exactly right. And that's not to say that it's not a good feeling. And I can think back here just a couple of weekends ago in a cattle ring where we had another gentleman sorting, and he was sorting first and I was coming afterwards, but then they held up to do the champions because of going from one ring to another pretty quick. It was pretty obvious and you could hear each other sharing a microphone, but it does make you feel good when you have a like-minded person in the other ring that you're kind of on the same path. But it really shouldn't matter where you're at as long as you're giving that opinion. And I think, Ryan, back to that pressure thing, and everybody's going to feel some degree of it, but I think your confidence level and your ability to speak well and describe animals allows you to relieve some of that pressure. I can say from personal experience, if I go back when I first started sorting shows, just junior, senior in college or during graduate school, there's no question I felt more pressure on getting those right, or the right. I would think more about what others were thinking rather than this is just where I want to be. Where I can promise you when I walk into a ring now, and the only thing I can explain it on is maturity, because I intentionally set out for a long time and didn't judge very many shows and focus more on our business and staying home and family. But as I come back into it at this point, I step into that ring with very little to zero pressure. And it's a good feeling because you can simply sort them how you want to sort them. And it's easier. Everything works better when you're not concerned about what somebody else thinks or what somebody else did. And I think that's the key of where you're at and why you're so appreciated in a lot of different shows across the country.
Well, and just the sheer number of shows that I sort if I felt pressure doing it, my life would be miserable.
It'll be a train wreck.
And
wait a minute, your life is a little
well,
bit
my life is a train wreck, but
on days. Yeah.
I love sorting shows because not only do I like sorting stock, but I like being with those kids. But if I had all this pressure on me and was thinking about that, then I wouldn't be laughing and joking with the kids and I would be worried about stupid shit that doesn't matter. So yeah. And
you'd be worried about, damn, did I just beat the grand champion from last weekend?
Right. I mean, that doesn't even affect me because I don't care. I am very confident in my opinion, but I am also confident that there are other people out here in the world, in our industry, that their opinions are just as qualified and capable and reputable as mine are, even if they aren't the same. And that's great. There is no right or wrong answer. But if I felt that pressure and I couldn't judge the shows that I do because it would be a miserable existence.
And Ryan, I'm going to openly admit that when I was first at a young age judging a few of the bigger shows, I felt pressure way, way more. I feel zero now. Did you feel pressure the first few shows or bigger ones you judged, or it was just not there from the beginning?
No, there's just never been that for me. And again, I do know the longer that I've done it and stuff like that, I think that I have gotten the grasp of why. And it is just like I've explained throughout this podcast, because it's my opinion. It's not everybody's opinion. But no, I never felt pressure. When I was younger and first starting out, were there more butterflies? Sure. But I never felt pressure to alter my opinion so it would be more like somebody else's or use one that had been winning or any. No, that was never there for me. And probably at the time, it was just me being hard-headed and going to do it my way. But now I have figured it out. And it is all the reasons that I've stated on here. It's just, I have an opinion. I know my opinion is a solid one that is not only backed with intelligence, but it is backed by the fact that I study this. I stay involved. I stay up on it. I don't think there's anybody that goes to more shows than I do, whether it's me judging them or even when I'm not judging them. I'm at shows watching other people. And so there is no reason for me to not give my opinion and give it with great confidence because it's a well-versed one. It does not make me a dictator and the all-seeing, all-knowing Swami of livestock shows, but my opinion is extremely well thought out, well documented, experienced. And again, if you describe them accurately and tell people why you did what you do, then that's all you can. And so that's it.
It's simple. Your everyday involvement, your life experience, all of those things have combined or contributed to where you're at. And I love how you can reflect back on and just here's where I'm at. And you're very at ease with giving your opinion and at ease and comfortable with what that is and explaining yourself very well. And it is what it is. And we don't care where other judges have been or what other, not that you don't care, but it's not impacting you sorting. You've been hired to sort them how you like them and you're doing it. It's great. I feel very similar when I walk in and it's a much better feeling. And I'm afraid that, and it's going to happen, the butterflies more so when you're younger. But Ryan, I think you've probably come through the process with a different mindset, a different feeling. You're different, period. No, I'm not afraid to say it.
No, it just is. And
I think you've evolved to this much quicker than what most do.
I had somebody less than a month ago, I think, I can't remember exactly, that was judging with me. He's like, so when did you start not looking at the cattle when you talk to them? I was like, what do you mean, when did I start? And there was just from the very first show, that's just how it worked. And none of this, I mean, yes, do I put on a show? Yeah, but none of what I do in terms of sorting or looking at the audience and not looking at that's not to put on a show. That's how it works best for me. And
which is different.
Right. And so I was really taken back by that when the guy asked me, he's like, so when did you stop looking at the animals before you talk? Like, I have no idea what you're talking about, sir.
But, you know, that the more I get to watch you judge and visit with you and get to know you, you made a comment once, I think on the podcast, maybe it was just in our conversations, that if you were to stare at those animals when you're talking about them, you said it would be a mess. I'm convinced it would be a mess.
I would sound like Elmer Fudd. I swear to
I think
God.
we need to try this experiment sometime.
I would sound like Elmer Fudd because I would look at that animal and what I had in my mind to say about that animal, another picture would go off about something else, and I would sound like Rain Man, probably.
That would be the most entertaining.
It would be awful. And and so just no. But and then I know we're getting long on this and we got Dale's favorite subject, question and answer. But before we move on, I do want to remind people that it is a lot harder to do this than what people think it is. Again, I don't find it hard at all, but I do know I have lots of good friends that do this and do it very well, that they feel pressure from different aspects and angles when they judge, and I still think they do a remarkable job at it. But I guess my last note on all of this is if you are on the outside looking in, but you have never stood in the middle of the arena, under the bright lights, with all the people staring at you, waiting to see what you're going to do, probably be a little less judgmental and a little more forgiving, regardless of who it is or how they do or what their opinion compared to yours is. Because if you've never gone out there and done it, then you probably shouldn't be as critical as what a lot of you are. And I know there's a whole lot more people on the outside of that rail that have never stepped foot in there.
And it is very, very easy to be critical because like Ryan, I've had the opportunity at a very young age to start judging shows and understood what was like on the inside. But I'll tell you what, if you have not been in there at a sizable show or a show with quite a few quality animals and a good crowd, it looks much, much easier from the outside. And it probably is easier because you kind of know the animals. You maybe have a history of how they've done over the past. But when you step in there, it is much more difficult for many than what it appears from the outside. Mm-hmm. That's simple.
Yep. So,
well, Ryan, I think that was good. I don't know that I've actively listened to very many people talk about the pressures and the different things that are going through the mind of a judge and the kind of what basically what we've discussed today. So I hope the listeners enjoy this one and it's made me think a little deeper. And I think it's good. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that already understand all of this, but hopefully this brings some more light onto it and hopefully maybe we'll be a little less critical as long as those judges are out there doing an honest job and what they believe in terms of their personal opinion. We probably don't need to be very critical. If they're becoming very political and they're doing things that doesn't make sense in terms of how they're describing the animals, then have at it, I guess. But in general, if they're out there doing what they were hired to do and doing it honestly, we really need to accept because that's their personal opinion.
Amen.
Question and answer brought to you by Pope Joy Livestock. Sarah has a question for Ryan, because he is the showmanship master.
Well, there you go.
Even though I did speak with the young man that you were a little hard on about the facial hair and the short sleeve shirt the other day.
I don't care.
But the showmanship master in beef showmanship, if your steer moves a foot, is it better to fix it with your stick or make a circle? My kids keep getting beat by kids that are circling the whole time. What would you rather see?
I think it all depends on how big of an adjustment there has to be with that foot. And is it something that we can move that foot, or do we have to reposition the whole body of the animal? Also, you have to take into consideration there are some animals, especially in cattle, that do not like their feet placed. It is a lot easier to walk those animals into set than it is to place them. I was someone when I showed that if I could fix it without having to move them, then that is what I would prefer to do. But there was a lot of times you can't do that. And especially if when they move that foot, their body position has moved. And I'm not talking about, it could be just a little bit of that. And it's still easier because that body is out of whack to circle out right quick and lead them back into it. But yeah, if they just move their foot and you can move it right back to where it was, I would rather you stay in line. but it just depends on the situation.
I think less disruptive, and in the
Right.
cattle ring, when you're circling that much and there's several of them in that lineup doing it, it is a little distracting and disrupting.
Right.
I guess and I'm going to go across species here. Obviously, we're not circling pigs, but on other species, I think Ryan's dead on. If we can make that adjustment with as little distraction as possible, almost not even noticed would be ideal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more apt to on the outside coaching, Ryan. Remember we talk about those dads coaching on the outside and getting too involved.
Everybody does it.
I will have a showman circle more if I feel comfortable that animal can lead and looks good on the move than maybe just adjusting. But if that animal doesn't lead well or wants to fall apart a little bit on the move, then I'm adjusting more in place. But I think cattle's a little different because we're just more times than not, we're a little restricted on ring space. And I can just think you've got let's say a dozen of them in the ring and it's not a real big ring and 3 or 4 of them are out circling at a time. It's a little bit of a mess.
Well, and then again, like in talking about cattle compared to lambs and goat, when a sheep or goat's body position is out of it, you can lift that one up, back that one up, move that around, all while still staying in one place and change the body position of one. If a steer heifer's body position is out of whack, then very few times are you going to be able to place those feet or to pull on that head and move that animal to where its body position is back in where it needs to be without circling around.
Agreed. And if you try to, you get in a very awkward, bad position.
So
not impossible. But no, I think that's a great question, Sarah and Ryan. Excellent job as far as explaining it. And again, it's all going to be individual, but I think it's good. This next question, Ryan, I think it's a difficult one.
Oh, great.
I'll try to help you out a little bit on it, but I don't know that I have a good answer. But we're not afraid to take on any question from any species. And Clayton submits a question, and I'm going to paraphrase. It was a little longer. I think more people need to know about the importance of fiber in a show pig diet. What are your thoughts about getting the proper amount in the diet? I told you it was a challenging one.
I'm not saying that this person is not correct or right or anything, but I'm just going to be real honest with you and tell you I haven't fed a pig in 5 years. And so I don't know. I think proper nutrition for animals, all show animals, is real important. I didn't know that. And I guess maybe this person is saying that like the fiber content in most of the feeds is not good enough. I don't
know what direction you're going. The only I'm going to take it a different direction. I'm not sure. And I deal with these questions daily with animals that we sell and talking about nutrition and trying to work with those families, similar to what Ryan did when he was selling and showing livestock. But I think most of our show feeds, for the most part, are balanced well. And we have our calcium and phosphorus ratio right. We have fat levels, energy levels, protein levels. For the most part, they're doing a better job now than they ever have. Now, when a pig family decides to take 20% feed and 80% supplements, you might as well throw that feed ration out the window because everything they did to balance that feed is now gone. And I think when we talk about fiber in the show pig diet, maybe Clayton's referring to a lot of times we're limiting feed intake on a show pig for various reasons. Partially because we have them older than the hills and we don't want them too heavy to get a little more mature bone and mature mass and everything that comes along with it. But if we restrict their diet, we get them kind of wrung out and sucked up and tight flanked, and they're kind of squealy and annoying in the barn. Similar to a gestation diet in the commercial world, sometimes if we're going to feed them more or allow them more access to keep them more content, more at ease and comfortable so they can actually eat something and fill up, we can put more fiber in a monogastric diet without increasing caloric numbers drastically. So I assume maybe we're talking about that, but I don't know. On a normal diet, I'm going to throw a number out here, and I would need to go back and check. My background is this was a long time ago, but I'm assuming, and I touched base with another very intelligent young man on this, and he's in that 10 to 30% is our range, and that's a very big range. But I think we can increase the fiber in the diet to keep those, whether we put beet pulp in or whatever we want to put in there to allow them to consume something and hopefully keep some gut fill to keep them comfortable, keep the flank dropped, all those things. But I think I go back to where Ryan is, not just fiber, but I think we've got to be very conscious. And I've beat this dead horse many, many times. Let's not stray too far off of that diet, irregardless of species, with supplements and additives, because if we get over 20% supplements versus base feed, we're going to screw things up that they've put quite a bit of effort into getting right. Easy enough on that one, Ryan?
I mean, again, yeah, like I didn't know exactly what direction this Clayton was wanting this, and I think you handled it really well. But I haven't fed a pig in 5 years, and even when we were feeding Show Pig, I was that person that I listened to the people that have been doing it were way smarter about me in the artistry of Show Pig feeding than I was, and I just kind of made adjustments for those pigs that I saw there. But I listened to a higher power.
And that is it. We always need to do that. If in doubt, if there's someone out there that knows more than you, listen to them.
That's what I did. So
real simple. Ryan, I'm going to give you, it's kind of like a vacation since you're on vacation at the Trump Towers in Florida, poolside, only 2 question and answer. You're done with question and answer.
Oh my, how nice.
Merry Christmas.
There you go.
Ryan, I enjoyed today's topic. I didn't know I don't think you or I knew for sure what direction we were going to go with it, but I think it went down a good path. And wow, I can't emphasize how many things are going on in the world that current event wise, from the border to Israel to the little horse that could to COVID to viruses that we're trying to manipulate and make them super viruses. There's millions of viruses out there, and only 1% of them can transfer from animals to humans. But when we start manipulating these and worry about that gain to function and emphasize that in our research, all of a sudden, every virus that's out there, we can contract as a human, and it's a scary path. I don't have any good answers, but I hope we work our way through this and everything continues to get better. And I hope you have some fuel in Florida by the time.
There you go.
They're talking about airplanes having to fuel up outside of that geographic region because of issues just getting jet fuel even. So it's obviously a problem, right? I don't think it's gonna. Hopefully, it passes sooner than later.
There you go.
But until next week, be safe.
Y'all come back now. You hear?